Today. I'm your host, Lady D. Well, welcome to What's Going On with Lady D Today. I'm your host, Lady D. We have a special guest in the house, no other than Mr. Phil Davis. Welcome to the show, Mr. Phil Davis.
Thank you, Lady D. It's a pleasure to be on your show always.
Yes, he is self-taught. He's an inventor. He's an entrepreneur. He's also an innovator, and he also has a podcast on our station, which I really wanted to welcome him to joining the KAZ family today. He has the Two Peas and a podcast
Yes.
every Monday at 7 o'clock.
Yes.
All right. Well, welcome to our family. On this station, we just bring in so many new hosts. So I want you to just stay tuned because you never know what you might see and you'll find out what's going on. So, Phil, talking about what's going on, tell our listeners a little bit of something about you.
Well, Lady D, it's one, again, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a native Cleveland, born and bred, but I had the good fortune of going through the Cleveland Public School System, proud graduate of South High.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
But then I had an opportunity to go to Stanford University, so I went to Stanford for undergrad, majored in econ. Then I came back, took a little time off to the gap year, and then I went to the University of Virginia for law school.
Okay.
But after about a year, I realized that I wasn't cut out to be a lawyer. So I went across the hallway, not a hallway, across the lawn, and went and got my MBA from the Darden Graduate School of Business from the University of Virginia. So I came out of UVA, and then I did some entrepreneurial things beginning in 1988 with the world's first deodorant for kids called Fun and Fresh. This is way back in the day before people were talking about kids having different needs as they matured, particularly amongst our younger kids.
Right.
But I did that, and then after that happened, I was awarded a fellowship as a Kellogg Fellow. The Kellogg Foundation made me a Kellogg Fellow, allowed me to travel around the world. But then I came back and did what people know me for in Cleveland. I did Fill the Fire back in the early 2000s. But then along the way, in 2007, I invented the world's smallest microwave, got 2 patents on that. And then I invented the Pusher, which is a new way to remove snow. I got 3 patents on that.
Okay.
It's been an evolutionary process. But right now, as we sit across from each other, I am now a member of the KAZ family. Myself, along with my good friend Paul Mosley, we launched a podcast called Two Peas in a Podcast. And it's a theistic journey to the light where we discuss some of the things that we're not usually discussing in the Black community, which is being Black and atheist, or not being on the spectrum of being a full believer, that you can be someone who doesn't believe, someone who's agnostic, such as Paul. I'm atheist, Paul is agnostic, but we're not at that other end of the spectrum where people believe in a deity.
Okay.
So,
well, I want to ask you now on the business side.
Okay.
Because I was looking at this mini microwave, and I think it might be a good idea. You might want to think about bringing it back because it's a space saver.
Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. Timing in life is everything. In 2008, everything was going gangbusters, but then the bottom fell out of the economy. We had the financial crisis, and I had $1 million deal with a brand you may have remembered called Sharper Image.
Yes.
They were ready to roll this out, but then Lehman Brothers collapsed and the entire financial industry collapsed. I had another deal with Linens and Things, which was the counter to Bed Bath & Beyond, had a deal there.
Yes.
But both of those deals, by the end of October of 2008, both had vanished. And it was quite devastating. But in the interim, people still find videos about the iWave Cube, and I get inquiries from around the world, from Europe, from Brazil, different places around the world, because, as you point out, Lady D, it is a space saver. But now that I've got some years to think about and learn what I did from the initial iWave Cube, I would do an iWave Cube 2.0 with some modification. But the thing about it, it's not that it's a very expensive proposition to undertake, because it requires special dies and tools and what have you. And I was in China quite frequently.
Okay.
That was the reason I first ventured to China, was to meet with our manufacturer, Midea, to work on it. So to your point, it is something that I think would resonate in 2024. But the capital required would be north of a couple million to really do it right and bring it back to life. But if I did it for a second time, I would actually launch it in Europe, in the European Union first,
Okay.
where space is even more of a premium than it is here in America.
Yes, because their living spaces, they're very compact.
Yeah.
And even over in China, it's a great place because everything is compact.
Yes.
Other countries, I watch the Travel Channel, and when they go into other countries, a lot of times they work with very little space. A kitchen may not be as big as this table
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
but it has the necessities what you need.
Right, exactly.
To
Exactly.
cook, to wash the dishes, and to keep them cold.
Yes, that's what you need.
They don't have all the storage space in cabinets.
Well,
like we have.
interestingly enough, and when I was in China, the one thing that I noticed was the difference in Chinese cuisine.
Okay.
Chinese food in China is much different than it is in America.
Okay.
And the reason for the difference in taste is that they do not have the infrastructure to keep food, particularly the proteins that they serve, chicken or whatever. It's not something that's been killed at a farm 10,000 miles away. It's more of something that may have been killed within the last 6, 7, 10 hours.
So it's fresh.
Very fresh. And so it has a different, I would say, gamey taste to it, but it was delicious.
Okay.
But that's to your point. I mean, they do not invest a lot in, you're not going to see a Sub-Zero refrigerator in a Chinese, typical Chinese home or a typical home in Japan. But because space is such a premium. So to your point, if I had the opportunity, yes, I would definitely do it again.
There's something else I think you might consider bringing back.
What's that?
I was watching the video with the shovel.
The Pushel.
The Pushel. The Pushel is great because it is excellent for anyone, especially if you've got sciatic back problems.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Or for someone who's older, I don't want to say elderly, but older, seasoned, and you need to just get out there and maybe do your sidewalk or get
Lady
the snow
D,
off.
I appreciate you doing your homework. You've done your homework, and the great thing about the Pushel, received a few patents on that, is that every year, unfortunately, people are injured or people die from shoveling snow. People don't realize how heavy snow is. Snow is extremely heavy. So when you're trying to shovel snow, which is the only thing we've been taught, is to shovel snow, you're lifting heavy, heavy snow. You do that repeatedly, and if you're not in shape, you will cause a stress on your heart. You will cause stress on your back. A lot of different things. So, I would like to bring the Pushel back. The quick story about that: I was on QVC, and originally was scheduled to be on QVC in February. That got pushed back to I was eventually on QVC in March. And nobody wants to talk about snow in March. I didn't want to talk about the Pushel in March. I mean, so it was one of the situations where the buyer made the mistake in pushing it, delaying it. And to show you how funny, how critical timing is, a week prior to my being on QVC,
Yes.
there was a major snowstorm in Philadelphia. Major snowstorm. Had I been on a week earlier, we would have sold out.
You'd have sold out.
Sold out. But
Have you thought about bringing some of your inventions to the show that's on every week?
Are you talking about Shark Tank?
Yeah.
Oh, I auditioned for Shark Tank.
Did you?
For Shark Tank, yes. Auditioned, went down to Atlanta. Micaiah, my daughter, and I, we flew down to Atlanta. We were in line at 2:30 in the morning. There were already 70 people in front of us. We auditioned, got past the first round, but didn't get past the second round. and I don't know why we didn't make it, but I did put that in there. I did then go to Pittsburgh,
Okay.
and I auditioned for the iWave Cube. That did we didn't get past the first round on that. So they look for things, whatever the producers and directors are looking for. The my iWave Cube didn't have that sizzle,
Okay.
that they felt that it should have. And then I don't know why they make it past the second round on the Pushel. But I'm an inventor. There will be other things to invent and other things to bring to the forefront.
I think it's time for the Push Show to come on back.
Okay, all right.
I really do. I think you followed it when it comes out. You just say, "I told you so."
Okay, all right.
Don't let nobody take that from you. Get that out there.
Okay.
We got a lot of Walmarts. I'm quite sure they'll be happy to carry it.
Okay.
Now, I do want to talk to you about your challenges. What would you say was the biggest challenge you faced in the early stages of all these different businesses?
Well,
one in particular, you can, because I know you have many businesses.
Well, the thing about launching a new business is that you do have a lot of things to do on your checklist. You got to do a lot of different things. One of the most important things is making sure you have enough resources, particularly capital, that you can draw on or pull from. And that would be the first thing that I would say, that sometimes I got a little bit ahead of the curve, because I knew that I had something special, and I didn't take the time to say, okay, well, wait a minute, be patient, let the situation sort of come to you. And so I got out front and did not have the necessary capital to see me through. Particularly, all it takes is one bad decision, like the Pushel. The
Right.
Pushel, it was a decision by the QVC director or producer, and pushed it back until March. So you got to have the funds in order to get through. The other thing is that you have to be mindful that as an innovator, a visualist, a entrepreneur, all those things, that you have to put all the haters to the side, because people will tell you all the time that it's not going to work, it's not going to do this, not going to do that.
Right.
And if you give in, even for a moment, if you let that seep in, you sometimes have some moments, and I'm human, you have those moments of doubt, and you can't let that seep in, because the whole thing about being an inventor is that you see the world differently. You see the world and say, well, what if we did this?
Right.
How about let's do that? Let's change this. Let's wait a minute, maybe there's a better solution. And that's how I start all my inventions. Well, there's got to be a better way.
Right.
Whether it's removing snow or eating chicken and waffles, or whatever it is. I'm always saying to myself, there's got to be a better way. But I could just tell you from Feel the Fire, from the moment I started working on it until we launched it, until the people that laughed and said people would never eat chicken and waffles, the line is long. I mean, for the people who just basically laughed in my face. And that, again, I'm human, but you can't let that enter into your psyche, because
Right.
people will, I think the expression is, while you're busy telling someone, people say what can't be done, those people will be interrupted by someone doing it. And that's the person you have to be. You have to be that interrupter, not necessarily disruptor. You're the person interrupting conversation about, oh, it can't be done. What's he thinking of? No,
Right.
I'm doing it. And so it takes a lot of perseverance. It takes resources, and you should make sure you have something to get you through those leaner moments. But that's what I would talk about. Those, it's almost like the psychology of the process, avoiding letting people get into your psyche. And it's easier said than done. I mean, because there are a lot of people who come at you, and they'll bring up the fact that something didn't happen. Well, I've had people sort of throw in my face, well, such and such didn't do X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it didn't. But one of the things that I always lean on is the fact that my legacy may not be necessarily, whether the Pushel becomes a multi-billion-dollar item or something like that. My legacy, hopefully, is to show people what can be done. That I can take an idea literally out of my mind, pull it out, shape it, mold it, and bring it and present it as an idea that people, will stand in line or will purchase. So that's more so the legacy than the financial aspect of it, because I'm very fortunate that it's been 20 years since Fill the Fire first came onto the scene in 2002, 2001, actually, if you consider
Really?
that.
Wow.
If you consider the we started in the basement of the Civic on Mayfield. So 23 years. There are times, I'm kidding you not, Lady D, where I can be walking along and someone say, "Hey, Fill the Fire, that's you," and people still remember me. And that is such a humbling experience. And I know that I could not have gotten that had I been in Chicago, Atlanta, it's so big. Cleveland is just big enough. But people still remember me. And that's always humbling. And that's part of what I feel good about, is that when people see me, they come up to me, they share memories of their time at Fill the Fire. They share the special moments that were special. And I just give you one quick example.
Sure.
The former owners of the Colony Theater, which was on Shaker
Square.
Square, before it became Cleveland Film, whatever it was eventually, but they were literally catty corner from Fill the Fire on South of Moreland. And after Fill the Fire closed, I happened to come up and I saw them in some particular social setting. They said, "Hey, Phil, we just want to share with you
Right.
that Fill the Fire will always have an important space in our heart." I said, "Why is that?" They said, "Because that was the last meal we shared with our son." And their son ate at Fill the Fire. He loved it. He had always wanted to go. He had heard so much about it, but unfortunately, he's lost his life in a car accident.
Oh, dear.
That night on his way to someplace else. But that was the last thing that he had.
Oh,
and
dear.
for them, and they shared that meal with them. So
Right.
I mean, you can't ask for a more humbling experience, but you can't ask for a higher honor than to be held in someone's memory, to say that this is something we'll always remember. We'll always remember our dinner at Fill the Fire on Shaker Square. That laid me out. I was so proud
That's very
to have
touching,
been,
very moving.
been a part of that. So we could talk about numbers, but I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about what I'm doing now. I've got like 4 or 5 different things going on.
Yeah, and that's another thing I want to talk about is, how do you toggle what it is that you do and what you're going to do?
That's an excellent question. One of the things about the innovative process, the inventing process, is that sometimes you do get a lot of irons in the fire.
Okay.
But but the reality is you can't do them all at the same time. You just can't.
Right.
And then at the same time, you got to keep a roof over your head. You got to keep the bills paid. You got to keep. So right now, for example, I am working on a new sports drink. I'm working on a new line of baked goods. I am also working on a line of dietary supplements for people of African ancestry. So that's just that. We'll just stop there. There are more.
So that's great, because at least you're staying in what your natural gift is, because I know you love baking, and you've been cooking for how many years have you?
Well,
really been cooking for?
I'm happy to say that this past June I became part of the, what did you say, senior or
Season.
Season.
We're seasoned.
We're seasoned. Yes, I became seasoned at the tender age of 65. And I've been cooking and watching cooking since I can remember. So, but actually cooking, I probably started my freshman year at Stanford. So that was 1977. So do the math. Was that 47 years, something like that? 47. Okay. Yeah, 47 years. Off and on cooking, and then, but it's just been a passion of mine. I fortunately grew up watching my mom and dad cook. My mom was known for fried chicken. My dad was known for his potato salad and his pork roast and different things like that. Grew up, food was just amazing. Just the cornbread, collard greens.
Food back then really had a different taste because everything was grown in a different way, and we wasn't putting all these pesticides and nematicides and herbicides and all these chemicals into the crops.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're absolutely.
We cooked differently. And that's just it. We cooked. Okay, we didn't have to, and everything was fresh.
And we did not depend on fast food as a main part of our dietary needs. I mean, relying on that.
Yes.
And just, I mean, I can remember looking back at how, my mom would bring back, like 3 or 4 bags of greens, and we'd pour them out, on some newspaper, and we sat there and we picked them.
Right.
They weren't cut up, pre-processors,
Right.
and we literally sat there. And then she cleaned them,
Yes.
and she poured a little cap full of liquid detergent in there to clean them. People are like, why would you do that? Well, because the greens are, they've got a lot of soot, and a lot of so. I mean, she literally cleaned the greens that way, and I mean, it was a process.
Yes.
I mean, and
Preparation went into it.
right, and
Yes.
the preparation is so important. And just to give you a quick story, when I knew that I was in love with cooking,
Yes.
My grandmother on my dad's side, she lived in New Orleans, and she came up to visit. And back then she didn't want to fly, so she caught a train. She caught a train from New Orleans to Cleveland. We met her down at the Terminal Tower, now Tower City. We
Right.
met, and that's when it literally was a train central, and we sat there, and she had this big black trunk. And it was heavy, and we loaded up, put it in the car, and then we got home and we opened it up. And on the first layer, it was nothing but newspaper. Second layer, nothing but newspaper. Third layer, dry ice. Had to take the dry off. Fourth layer, oh my God, there's crab, there's shrimp. There was everything she brought up from New Orleans to make gumbo. That gumbo took 2 days.
Wow.
But oh my God, Lady D, when I'm telling you, I can still remember that taste.
Sound like you can still taste it now.
Oh my God.
Now you got me wanting
Oh my,
some.
I mean, but to your point though, but
Yes.
she took 2 days to make gumbo. Oh my God.
Yes. So talking about food and preparation, we have to have preparation in everything that we do in life. And that's very important.
Well, but it even goes deeper than that. Because the definition of luck, is when preparation meets opportunity.
Okay.
If you're not prepared
Yes.
and you have this opportunity, you're out of luck.
You're out of luck.
You're out of luck.
You blew it.
You blew it. You blew it. And that is so important. And that's what, so that's why I don't worry about the haters and what people say, because whatever it is that I'm doing, I'm preparing myself for the next opportunity. I was cooking, giving away banana pudding, giving away sweet potato pie, and doing things, having chicken waffles parties. But all the time I was preparing myself so that when I had a chance to step into the arena, I knew what I was doing.
Yes.
Same thing what I'm doing now with this new line of baked goods. I've been baking this. I've been focused on this. It's a Mexican dessert called tres leches, and I've been doing this for 3 years. After my daughter asked me to make one, took me 3
What is that? So our listeners would know.
Okay, tres leches is a Mexican dessert, very very popular. But what it is, it's a sponge cake that you make the sponge cake and you poke holes in it and you pour 3 different types of milk in it and you chill it overnight. And you top it with whipped cream, and then in the case that I'm working on, you have a cookie crumble. So we have various. I like 41 different flavors that I've created.
Okay.
But the quick story is that I'm working right now with a restaurant, but I would not have been able to even work with this restaurant had I not spent the last 3 years preparing myself for that moment when I met the owner of the restaurant at a social event. And I said, "Hey, are you selling tres leches cakes?" He said, "No." I said, "What? You're a Mexican restaurant. Why aren't you selling tres leches?" He said, "Because nobody knows how to make it." I said, "Would you mind if I brought my tres leches to your restaurant?" He said, "Sure, contact Alejandro." And, so I went up to Alejandro, me llamo Felipe. So I'm, working on my Spanish, me llamo Felipe. And I shared with him the tres leches. He was like, "Oh my God, Felipe, es bueno." There's just he got excited.
Yes.
But that was 3 years,
Oh,
3 years in the making. I know how to make a very good sponge cake. And that's the most important thing, is making the sponge cake, but also knowing the ratio of the milks. And so it didn't happen overnight. But when the opportunity presented itself, I was ready, because I spent 3 years doing that. I can't tell you how many batches I had to throw out because it wasn't quite right.
See, that's what makes you a great inventor and an innovator. See, that's what I'm talking about. Never be in a rush. Keep your ideas to yourself. Don't let others be a killjoy.
Exactly.
Okay? and perfect what it is that you're doing, because someone is going to see some greatness in what you got.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that is what's exciting, is that when you finally step into it, or the one of the buzzwords last couple of years, people leaning into what they do, leaning into their strengths, and or soaring with their strengths, is that you have to sort of cancel out all, people spend tons of money on noise canceling headphones, and where mentally you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to buy a gazillion dollar headphones. What you do is you cancel out all the noise yourself and focus in on what it is that you do.
That's awesome. Well, Phil, I thank you for just sharing all of this information. There is so much more to come from Phil, the Fire, and everybody in town. We don't call him just Phil. We say Phil the Fire because he's branded by that name, Phil the Fire. Okay, so you guys are going to feel his fire next week when he comes on.
Yes.
And joining our new KAZ family.
That's right. 2 Peas in a podcast.
2 Peas in a podcast is going to be exciting. And I just wanted to let you know, because there's so much going on in our community. This Saturday we are going to have, which is the Grandparents Family Day, will be at Luke Eastern Park, starting at 10 a.m., the pancake breakfast, a full day of gospel, jazz, playland for your children, the senior pavilion. Come on over there and see me and Lady Gilmore. There will be lunch served, full-blown lunch for our seniors, okay? Seasoned seniors will be getting fed. And so we're just going to have a wonderful time out there. So come and join us. Also, September 20th, I saw this. Guess who's going to be in town? No other than our Mayor, Mike White. He will be at Southgate Bowling Lanes. And this is for 1,000 K-Men boots on the ground. So you might want to check that out, because he's going to be talking about sharing some insight. So it's always good. I always love Mike White. I don't know about you, but I was in the period of time when Mike White was making things happen in our city. Also, there's one more piece of information I want to let you know. It's not too late. Connect with the Urban League, Greater Cleveland Urban League. They're doing a record relief and clearance. Fresh start. So come on, get a fresh start. I gave you what it is, and now that's what's going on. See you next week. Thanks for watching. Join us every Thursday, and you too can be a guest straight from KAZ Radio Podcast Studio.